Uh, Thanks for joining us to run through an introduction of the UV32MP from Direct Color Systems. Um, we're going to give it 30 or 40 seconds here for a few more people to join, and then we're going to move forward. Again, thanks for being with us. It's good to have you here. Right. Well, we're going to get started. I think we've got enough people uh, to justify that. As I said, this is the Direct Color Systems UV32 MP. We're going to explain what all those things mean in a few moments. But I'm Kevin Currier. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Direct Color Systems. I'll be joined by Tommy Evans, Marketing Specialist, also Direct Color Systems. He's in the Print Solutions studio in South Carolina. And he's going to join us later on in the presentation to do some live demonstration. All right, a quick agenda just so we know what we're doing. As I said, intros, a little bit of company background, what our goals are with this product lineup, and especially this new product. We're going to hit the high points, the features, and specifications of the UV32. And then we'll talk a little bit about markets, applications, substrates, um, and then just overall remaining specifications like work area, power, those kinds of things. And then we'll go to a live demo. As I said, we'll join Tommy Evans in the print room, and he'll explain some things hands-on. All right, Tommy, are you there at the moment? All right, we'll come back. All right, so here's the UV32MP. It's an intermediate format UV LED flatbed print system. Um, Multi-purpose in our minds is really this is a machine that really has a lot of opportunity to do a multitude of applications, from signage to of course braille and high value decorative graphics, but also the whole world of promotional ad products, in whatever kind of object size and shape that might be for for your needs. All right, just a little bit of the background of Direct Color. We are located in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, right between Boston and New York, 2,500 square meter facility, as well as a facility in Porto, Portugal, whose staff is responsible for international sales, service, and logistics for the rest of the world. Founded in 1995 in Connecticut, we remain there. With engineers, where we design and manufacture these ranges of machines. Starting with small format, but now really focused on small to large format UV LED printers, flatbeds primarily. Um, our goal with these products is to be able to offer the system that fits your needs, whether that's, restrictions on size in your shop, or whatever it might be, mobility, the ability to have more than one, so getting the right size to do that, but also to offer all of our specialized applications, from braille to texture to, to whatever it is, on across this whole range, and not restrict any one of them. Just, okay, this one's smaller, but it doesn't do this. This one is a faster machine, but it's not capable of that. We're avoiding that. We're trying to get um, every package, can meet every need. So if you look at the graphic, dark blue, large, represents a large flatbed, 244 by 122 centimeters. And then we have in the medium category, we got a couple things, but really I sort of averaged it out here. We have the uh one what is it, 122 by 122 um system, and we have another variation to that. The 53 is a little bit different size. The small, which has been, it's a mature product. It's been around a while. Some of you may have seen it. 60 by 30 roughly. And now, of course, the 32 fits our new format category of intermediate. Intermediate is 90 by 60. So that one, and that's what we're going to focus on today. That one focuses on uh, really a lot of punch in a reasonably small compact machine. All right. So just to recap the goals there, what we're really interested in all cases is being able to make sure that once you select the machine that's right for you, there's no restrictions on the applications that you can accomplish, from braille to texture, UV DTF film, signage, uh, rotary with our easy cell system. It's all capable. So, as I said, braille, texture, easy cell, and DTG. All right. So some of the higher level features of the 32 are, of course, its size. So the 90 wide by 60 deep centimeter vacuum table split into two independent vacuum zones, really makes for accessible vacuum table where if you're using one half, you can focus your vacuum optimally on that, or use the whole table. It's very easy to use. But the really one of the big um, keys to that is the Z height. The maximum material height is 30 centimeters. And we're going to look at that in a future slide. But really, the way we're doing that, allowing for 30 centimeter space from the table to the jet plate, is by using a descending table. All right. And industrial grade ink delivery system. We're going to talk at length about this, so I'm not going to dwell on it here, but basically it's a industrial grade delivery system. What doesn't include dampers or capping stations or any of that other stuff that you might have experienced already, and are ready to move on. Solid steel welded frame. This is a very rugged little machine. Um, and of course, anti-crash detection. We've built in safeties on the carriage, as we did in previous machines, to protect any wayward material, turned up corner of a sheet of metal or plastic, from coming in contact with the nozzles. CMYK and white and clear are standard on all systems, including the UV32. Um, that combination of color is integral to most of what we do, from texture to braille, to high-end graphics. Really, we don't want to do without it. So those aren't options that you have to make a choice about. And we'll look at how that's laid out in a few moments. So I'm going to, keep coming back to the robust industrial aspect of this print system, which we call Chromasphere Print Technology, and I'll explain more about that as we get deeper. And of course, continuing on, like the 44 and 84, our bulk ink delivery system. So no waste, in bags or cartridges. It's just pour in. Uh, you know, don't even have to stop printing, and you don't have to worry about that 5 or 10% loss of ink in every bag or cartridge that you pull out and throw away. I should say at this point, and I should have said at an earlier point, feel free to use the question and answer box. We do have someone watching that, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have as we go. And then we'll give some time at the end to catch up on that if we need to, and to take additional questions. All right, so a quick illustration of the UV32MP from the top. You can see that the towards the front of the machine is the 90 by 60 vacuum table. It's accessible from the front for easy loading. If whether you're using lots of small parts and laying them out, or using jigs to lay out items, add promotional items like pens or bottle openers or boxes, whatever it might be. It's very, very accessible, very easy to use. Can see, just to reiterate, we got 90 centimeters left to right and 60 front to back. And the substrate, if it's like a flat substrate, like a paper, cardstock, or board, can certainly exceed that by a certain amount. So by 2 centimeters in each direction. So if you had a large, piece of foam board or something, and it had to be a little bit bigger, you have that capability. This is the vacuum zones. You have left and right. It's quite simple. A and B, left and right. It's just a quick switch on the side of the printer, and we'll point out where those things are when we get to the print room. But if you're doing one part or a few small parts, you focus on one side. And, typically, you would shut off the other side, but anything that's open, you would want to cover, for two reasons, really. Just to increase the vacuum a little bit, but also you don't want that turbulence of the vacuum moving dots around, at the edges, and getting a mist, or it would be very, very minor and almost imperceptible, but you can avoid that by covering any vacuum holes that are operating but are open. All right, and then as I said, there's a rotary option. Easy Sill is the DCS term for this. We lower the table to a certain point, place the rotary attachment, plug it in, and initiate it in the software. And if you have one bottle that's 825 millimeters, you can print on it, or you can print on as many fit in that span. All right. So I'm coming back to the Z height, or the maximum material height, which is 30 centimeters, as I said earlier. And we're really excited about that. As far as we know, and we're pretty sure it is the biggest in the industry, or we'll say the tallest in the industry. We tend to have that honor even on previous machines. We tend to go a little bit bigger in that direction, just to make sure we accommodate any future application or object that you or your customer might come up with. It's a simulation of the table at some point at the lower range. In reality, it would go a little bit lower than that, but you can see the carriage is never going up or down. It's always at the same level point when the table is spanning that distance, whether it's quite close or has to be pulled away for larger material. And then with the rotary. All right. So back to Chromasphere, and I'm just going to make a few more points about it, because it is important to this family of products. Chromasphere should be thought of in sort of a three-part approach to inkjet printing. The first one is the ink delivery system, and as I said earlier, that's a negative pressure system that you would find on much more expensive, larger industrial equipment. Not gravity fed, not using cappers when you're not printing, and cappers, cleaning stations, and eventually, after much maintenance on a daily and weekly basis, having to replace all those things, cappers, capping stations, and print heads. That is absolutely what we didn't want. Even though this is a smaller machine and, may find its way into some small shops that might be more accustomed to that, we feel like it's time to get away from that. And the UV32 MP really does that. So it's got an ink delivery system very much like a much more expensive machine, as I said, but built into this compact format. So the ink delivery system is the number one. Part of that is the print heads. We have these stainless steel print heads, extremely precise dot placement, very robust, very much would rather be jetting ink than being clogged. A simple wipe, Tommy will expand on this a little bit later. A simple quick purge and wipe at startup or at the beginning of the day, and those jets they will print all day long. We've been really pleasantly surprised by that. So ink delivery system is the first part. Of course, and print heads is the second. And ink, of course, is the part that ties it all together. So we've been able to optimize the ink for the Chromasphere Print Technology. The ink is actually called Chromasphere Print Technology ink, and it is completely designed for this system, for this drop, the way it delivers drops, the velocity of it. The whole thing's been taken into account, and we're really excited about what we're calling Chromasphere Print Technology. And this slide just basically says everything I just said. So heads, delivery system, and inks. And I think I mentioned earlier, and it is worth noting again, these are very highly engineered stainless steel print heads. They are very, very durable. They're not to be considered a consumable item, like some gravity fed systems, with the older Epson technology would be. These are really high-end pieces of equipment. All right, so just to summarize that, we're using 3 of them at the moment. There's 1,680 nozzles per head, and they have a range of 5 to 12 picoliter in dot size in our variable drop grayscale. And they are, as I said, a very smooth, very consistent, and very precise dot. Chromasphere inks. This is what you would be using. It's 1 liter bottles. That is the way we sell it for this machine. Meets all the standard requirements that inks need to meet these days. 12-month shelf life, and it's a very high density but low consumption ink, so it goes a long way. Cyan, magenta, yellow, black, white, and varnish. This is the print head layout at the moment. You can see we have an open spot that we're not utilizing, but we do plan to give that some thought down the road with some input, from UV32 users. It would likely be something like light cyan and light magenta, which gets you a little bit smoother into pastels and those kinds of things. But who knows? There are other options that we'll consider there. So the way these are laid out and staggered, we're really able to emphasize production because we don't have to print all the white and then print all the CMYK or print all the CMYK and then go back and varnish. It's all happening in line at a pretty good rate. This is a typical, very generic layout on some other printers, and you can see that they're all in line. And so in order to use combinations of white, color, and clear, you have to address the length of those heads at different intervals, thirds or half. And because of that, you're often adding a third or a half to your throughput and actually, losing quite a lot of production time. So we've avoided that with the staggered design. Um, we've done similar things with the medium and large format, and it's worked out really well. Okay, so promotional items, signage, decor, yard signs, that doesn't really nearly cover it all. Those are the those are the ones we can think of, but we know there's a whole world of applications and materials and opportunities out there that you're aware of, and we think that the UV32 is probably well suited to take care of some of those. Um, just a quick few remarks about some throughput. I don't have a whole chart of throughput because there's so many variables, but um, in North America, we have something called yard signs, and yard signs are a 46 by 61 piece of polypropylene or coroplast, as we call it. And they're typically fairly inexpensive throwaway signs. They're short term, thrown out on the side of the road on a metal stake. No one ever goes and collects them to reuse them. They get run over and thrown away. So you don't want to spend a lot of money on them, but you want to often produce a quantity of them. So right now, or recently, on the introduction of the machine late last year, we did some testing and we were able to do two of these together on that table. They fit perfectly in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Now we've reduced that time a little bit since because we've got um, other modes of print and resolutions that we're exploring. But in what we would call the yard sign mode that we used at that time, so that's you know that's a pretty quick 2 minute print if you look at it that way. So you can really produce a lot of this kind of signage in really good quality, actually, fairly quickly. We can do a full ADA or Braille bed in 80 minutes. So that's, all the layers of white and clear to build up everything you need for the Braille dots and the pictograms and all the raised areas. And we can do that in 80 minutes. And as I said, we do have um, modes in development to increase those throughput times. Um, and then just a color print on a nice piece of material, full size, 720 by 1200. That's a real high quality print. Took 9 minutes. Right. So as I said, there's a whole world of applications out there and markets, and you guys are probably in all of them, and you know them at a much deeper level than we do. But as we said, we really think this machine uh, is really suited to being that, to use the term, multi-purpose or really all-around machine, from doing a couple of quick signs to doing some drinkware, turning around maybe some pens, golf balls, uh, shipping boxes, whatever it is. There's really no additional setup time. It's just a matter of loading the material and going. Um, Fine art, reproduction, home decor, um, uh, your imagination would be the limit on what this can do with that kind of material maximum height. Um, when it comes to material, there's no closed door. Often there, with some testing and a few changes to process, there are ways to print on almost anything. Things like difficult things like glass and stainless steel. We have primers, and that's another step, but it can be done. But all the normal graphic mainstream materials that you would encounter, from foam boards to PVC, are basically a given. But then polycarb, polystyrenes, acrylics, second surface printing on all of those, backed by white, all of those things really excel on this system. Um, with the UV32, we've done a new version of ColorByte software. ColorByte is what powers our other formats, allows us to have a front end design that accepts files from all the normal graphics programs like the Adobe Suite and Corel and all that, but also allows you to do some level of design right there, but then also make decisions about texture and about braille, um, you know, at the design at the print station. And then the back end is a full 64-bit RIP. Um, version 12 is new, so new machine and new RIP, they're perfect partners. And you know, there's a ICC color management module available and built-in cost calculation. All right, Braille. So some of you may know, and for those who don't, we Direct Color Systems holds the original 3 patents for the digital creation of Braille. Sometimes we license that to others, but we're very committed to Braille and further development in that area. So as I said at the start, we really need every machine we do. If this was designed to be a signage machine, we would still require the ability to do Braille. We can't leave that behind. So built into the RIP, um, it's really set up to guide you through the creation of Braille. It meets the standards in most major countries, or the majority of countries. Translation 98 languages, and reduces your production time very much when compared to the traditional methods of creating Braille. Texture 3D. This one is I find quite exciting. You're able to quickly and effectively create a relief texture of almost anything you can imagine in the RIP, preview it in the RIP, make some adjustments if necessary, and then print it using a buildup of white and clear, then in most cases covered by color. And you can see in the picture to the right, it's if you look at the brass colored metal, all the way to the right is hard to see, but clear is creating the texture. White is covering that, and then color is finalizing the image. And so you get something like this middle picture, which looks like cracked earth or something, or I'm not quite sure what it is, but you can adjust that from low relief to high relief and everything in between. And that's really done by importing any bitmap or vector format, running it through the wizard, making some decisions using contrast to delineate what the height will be, and then printing it. It can create a very high value final print, depending what you're doing. And you can do it in very select ways. Could just be one logo on a print, or it could be the frame around something. It's very much open to what you want to do right there. You don't have to back up and go to the pre-press room and have a meeting and figure out how we're going to do that. It's just done right there at the RIP. All right, so the UV32, as I said, is a intermediate format, but it's a very it's not going to fit in the back of your car, but it's a very compact machine. It once on the floor on the casters, it's very easily moved into place. A year down the road, you decide you got to move it to another room. It's quite easy to do. It's 350 kilograms, so it is heavier than it looks. But as I said, once it's set down on those wheels, it's quite easily put into place. So it's 223 centimeters by 115, so a little over 2 meters by a little over 1 meter in actual physical space. But the work area really you should give yourself a minimum of 60 centimeters on all two sides and back, and then maybe a little bit more if you can in the front. The the door should be about 120, so a standard double door, but you don't need a big full size overhead door to get it in. Um, you can see in the dash line, there's like a general operator area, and that is basically where your operator station would be located, although it doesn't have to be. It could be, because it's just going to be a computer hooked to it, by a USB cable. It could be in the next room. It could be, in the back corner. It's pretty flexible. Typically, it ends up being right there where I put it. So the overall room, I would say the overall room, if you're not storing material, 3.5 meters by 2.5 meters would be sufficient. The environment, if your operators are comfortable, the machine will be comfortable, but 20 to 25 is probably the best optimal temperature for the room and for the system. And really normal humidity ranges are best, the 40 to 60. As far as power goes, unlike the previous machines, we only need one 20 amp, 220 volt line, single phase, to come into the printer. And then there is a chiller, which we'll see out on the floor, that plugs in to an outlet inside the machine. So it's all, you feed it that one line of power, and you've got everything else you need. Maintenance, I'm not going to touch on too much here because I'm going to save that for Tommy as we move over to him quite soon. But it's actually a very low maintenance piece of equipment. All right, Tommy, are you with us?
Let's see if we can get this to work this time.
There's your voice. All right. So
Uh,
we're gonna be here live at the Print Solutions studio in South Carolina, and Tommy's gonna I'm gonna try to remember what I always forget here. I've got to give you spotlight. Bear with me on that. All right, that should do it. And how's it look? We all set?
unshare your screen.
Right. That's what I'm trying to. There we go. Okay.
All right. So since we started this presentation, I've been printing some ADA signs here. I've been printing on some just uh, aluminum. So it's 1 foot by 2 foot or 304 millimeters by 609 millimeters. Just printing, a standard ADA sign that gives us, the raised copy and the correct rail height that we're needing. But while that's still printing, before we get done, Kevin mentioned the size of the printer. So yeah, so the footprint that the machine um, has is roughly 2.1 meters by 1.5 meters. Um, and then on the bottom right of your screen there, you see the chiller. So daily, what you have to do is turn that on and off because you want to keep full power to the machine, but you don't want the chiller running all night long. So your operator would just turn that on in the morning and then turn that on at night. Um, and that keeps the UV lamps cooled while it prints, so that way they don't overheat. Because to save space, there are no internal fans on this. So the chiller is what runs cool water through the machine and around those bulbs to keep those nice and cool, but also at the correct temperature to cure the ink. Since Kevin ended his presentation talking about maintenance, we'll just go into that real quick. So daily your maintenance is just purging and wiping. So when your operator comes in the morning, turns on the chiller, you go through the purging and wiping process. On the side of the print head, here you've got all your ink buttons. So you've got, CMYK, a button for varnish and a button for white. Your operator just pushes those one at a time. You'll hear the inside air because the negative pressure system kind of click, let go, let the ink purge out. You go through each one of those and just wipe it after everything is done purging. With that, you've got a waste tray right here. So that's where the ink just purges into there, and that collects every week in there. So then in the morning, they purge and wipe. And then in the evening, before they go home, their shift is done or you're done printing for the day. You just do another purge. You don't wipe it. You're just purging it, kind of getting anything that might be sitting, resting on those heads just from a day of printing, whether it be, just ink that kind of flies around as it is printing, because that just happens in the UV print world. But you're just doing a purge just to kind of get that final thing out of the system, and then it's good to go for the night. You shut down the chiller, and then it's ready for the next day. So then weekly, you're doing the purging, wiping, but weekly, what you want to do is your operator is going to just check under the head carriage just to kind of clean that the head plate for any overspray and debris that might build up on there. And then they're also checking the UV lens covers just to make sure there's no overspray on there, cleaning those down with some alcohol, scraping it with a razor blade, just to keep those clean so the UV lamps are acting properly. And then lastly is monthly. Monthly, you're doing the same thing as the daily and weekly. And then monthly, they just want to check the grease on the rails. That way, make sure that the head's sliding back, smoothly left to right, and then that the gantry is moving front to back smoothly. So you can just check the rails, clean those off, apply new grease, and just move the head by hand just to make sure that it's sliding and gliding across there properly. And that's all your maintenance. There are some last chance filters that have to be replaced, but there is no set guidelines on that. But I would say you're probably looking at around every 6 to 8 months. And that is really, other than the ink, that is really the only true consumable for this printer. Like Kevin said, with that negative pressure system that we have in this machine, you no longer have to replace print heads every 6 to 12 months. You no longer have to replace dampers. You no longer have to replace capping stations. So the machine is up and operational for more time than when you're having to change out those parts. With that negative pressure system, on the left side of the head here, you've got two dials. Those are your gauges for the color and varnish negative pressure system, and then white has its own negative pressure system. So all that is adjusted through that. That really kind of comes into play when there's weather changes, just like any other kind of negative pressure system. Any kind of change in the atmosphere, whether it be humidity, temperature, that could affect your negative pressure systems where they have to be adjusted up or down just a hair to make sure that the ink is flowing out properly. To go with the front of the machine here, you've got your power button up top, and these are your two vacuum buttons for your two zones. So the left is the left side of the vacuum here. The other one is for the right side of the vacuum. As Kevin mentioned, the vacuum is just split right in half of that 60 by 90 bed size. So it makes it perfect. Just if you're working with a smaller piece of material there, you can just work on one side of the vacuum, and it makes it very easy. You've also got on the front here, you've got your emergency e-stop. That's if you just see something that is about to be catastrophic to your print. You're not worried about saving the print. You're more worried about saving the machine, or if there's some kind of electrical issue going on. You hit that, it just turns the machine right off and stops everything from functioning. To get it going again, you just undo the e-stop like any other machine, power it all back up, and you are ready to go. On the right side of the machine next to the chiller is where all your bulk ink is. So you have a bulk tank for each color. Each one of those bulk tanks can hold just a little over 500 milliliters. And then that'll feed into sub tanks that are actually in the print head carriage itself. Those sub tanks are heated. That way it's making sure that those heads don't have to work as hard to heat that ink up to get it to spit out properly. Then also the reason we got to have power to the machine all the time is in our white ink. There are not many printers like this. We have a white ink circulation, and we also have a white ink stir. So the circulation is going to be circulating the ink between the sub tank and the bulk tank, just so there's no settling in that sub tank. And then the stirrer is in the bulk tank to make sure there's no settlement that stays inside that bulk tank. So that's going to prevent any kind of clogging of that white head, because you're not getting the sediment that kind of is in that buildup of that white ink to make it white ink. And then on the back, there are access panels. That's to be able to get to really electricals and things like that, but there should never truly be any need to get into there. So that's just kind of a basic overview of the printer itself. One thing I forgot to mention, there are crash bars, as Kevin mentioned in the presentation. If you see the little jut outs on the left and right side of the print head carriage, that's where your UV lamp housings are. But on each one of those are crash bars. So what that means is if your material is lifted up just a little bit, that material can hit that crash bar. It'll stop right where it's at. The good thing about the crash bar is it doesn't ruin the print. In your print control software that is for the printer that runs the printer, a message will pop up. It'll ask you if you've cleared the debris or whatever it was. You can hit yes, and you can resume the print exactly where it left off. That way you don't lose that print. Um, Again, the only way you lose the print is if you hit that e-stop, or if in the program you just stop the print altogether. That way it wasn't continuing its process.
Hey, Tommy, while we're still here, I just had one question come in. Just wants a little more explanation on what that chiller does.
Okay, yeah. So the chiller um, basically is just running cool water through the machine. You've got an output line and a return line into that chiller, and that's running cold water through the machines and around those UV lamps
So
to
it's
keep
cooling
those
the lamp.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's cooling the lamps. You've got UV chiller, I know, was used on a lot of the old, like mercury bulb UV printers, kind of when they first came out, because that was the only way they could get something cool enough to kind of cure those lamps down. With our larger machines, the UV84 DTS and the UV44 DTS, we actually have fans and blowers on there, but that just makes that print head carriage so large that it wasn't really functional on a machine like this size. So really, that chiller has just got distilled water in it with a little bit of biocide. That biocide kind of helps from having algae kind of build up in that water as it's sitting. But then you don't use a whole lot of water. So really, you would just need to check that chiller every couple months just to maybe replenish some water, because there's not a whole lot of burn off. Since it is a enclosed system, it just kind of circulates that water back through, getting it back cold, or kind of heats back up, comes back through the system. So it's really just there for those UV lamps to keep those cool.
Okay, great. All right.
Um, so as this is about to finish up here, we've got So we've gone over the bulk tank system. So we'll talk about the actual print system itself. Kevin mentioned, we do have the ColorByte software still. This is a new version, the ColorByte 12. Um, you've got your design side and you have your rip side. Along with that, you've got a print control software that actually runs the printer itself. That's where you'll do all your final setup, to where you can pause the printer as it's in the middle of a print. If you see something, if you see some dirt or debris you need to clean off, you can pause that print um, and clean that off. Then you can always, when you're doing your texture or your ADA braille, um, in the print control software is where you would set how much white and clear you would like to put down to get the buildup that you're wanting. There is a standard for the ADA, but when it comes to texture, it's kind of up to you. Do you want a little bit of texture, just a little bit of relief, or do you want a whole lot, to where you're kind of playing with that and getting it up to those limits that you want to get to? The only thing you got to watch out for there is if you do too much buildup, you could start scraping the head. So it could be safer to do a print, get some buildup, then do another print based off remeasuring that head height to that new thickness that was set through that texture print itself. So this ADA sign is done.
Yeah,
I'll
let's take a
show a
look.
picture of that, and then I'll set up and do another little promotional item. All right, so here's a finished product of the ADAs. So you've got your raised text here, you've got your braille dots, and then after this is done, you can take it to. This is on aluminum, so I'll just take it to our chopper, just cut it down to the sizes I want here based off the size of the print. Or, if you're printing on acrylic, you can take that over to your laser or to your router and, set up die lines inside your file. And then you can send that to exactly print and cut exactly where you're wanting it to. So that is the positive side of this. There is no camera on this, but you can set up those registration dots if you have a camera on any of your finishing equipment that you have.
So
Um,
you had a lot of things going on those signs. You had colored background, you had
yeah,
braille, you
yeah.
had
So
raised.
so so that's the plus side to this is that it did all of that in one print. So a lot of printers out there, you've got to print that background first, or you got to do a color first. I mean, it printed. This was printed on silver material, so it printed a thin layer of white underneath the color background just to help make that pop off that silver, so it wasn't so um, metallic looking, and then it was doing the buildup of the clear and the white at the same time. Now, if I would have made, say, the text colored, it would have also been printing that color text on top of that as well. So we're done it all in one uh, print job instead of sending several different print jobs to the printer to get the desired effect that you would like.
Great. Thank you.
I am going to set up now and do a promotional item. So there's a lot of promotional items out there. I mean, there's no shortcoming of anything you want to do. But what I'm going to print on is got a wooden box here. This is just a wine box holder. You can do for wedding, for anniversaries, anything like that. So I'm just going to print on one of the sides here. Um, but you can, I know the exact size of this, so I'm just plugging that into the software. And as you can see, the bed's lowering automatically to the size that I want this to be at. Um, with this being wood, I am going to print a white underbase just to kind of get those colors to pop. And then on the bed itself, there are measurements on here. So you'll know where your 0, 0 is exactly. And then I'm always ever cautious. So I like to just close off any of the vacuum kind of around my material just so I can make sure it's going to stay down and stay in place and I don't have to worry about any material trying to lift up on me. Um, you'll see, I tend to, these guys kind of make fun of me. I tend to put anything I can down. So I've got a pre-printed sign there that I'm just going to lay down to cover up some of those holes for myself. In the print control software, you can automatically set the head height like I did here, or you can also put your material down onto the bed and have um, the printer itself auto detect the height of the media. There's a foot underneath the print carriage head that will come down, sense the material, drop down to the exact height that it needs to be at. Within the print control software, you can get your ink usage, which could be another thing if somebody wants to set up a demo later on to learn more about this particular printer. We could go over all that. But yeah, the print control software, you're setting up your files, you're setting up which print mode you want to use, you're setting up, your ink settings as far as how many layers of white you would like, how many layers of clear you would like. So there's a lot of different variables inside this print control software that you can do. All right. So now I've hit start on the printer on the print. So it'll register itself together and it's going to move itself down to the correct position to print on top of this media. And this is a wine box that is 4 inches or 101 centimeters tall. So in the print control software, I just automatically put in there 101, and it lowered that bed to the specific height. Um, Kevin said, this can go all the way down to um,
30.
12 inches or 30 centimeters there. Um, so you have a lot of room to play with depending on what type of material you're wanting to print on. There are on the bottom there are casters down there, but then there is a pad that just comes down and kind of locks it in place. So you can move it around if you're like Kevin said, if you've expanded your building, you've got it in one place, you can easily roll it around, level it back out yourself, and be ready to set up and print again as soon as you've got it in place.
Yeah, but you want it stable when you're printing, right? You want to
Yes, yes. You
lock
want
them
it. You
down.
want those foot pads down because it is quite heavy for a machine this size, but at the same time, that head is going back and forth, so it can rock a little bit just because of that motion of that print head going back and forth. So you want those feet down to stabilize it, so you're not getting any wobble or shake, which would make it unlevel and kind of throw off your print.
Yeah, and level is always good.
Correct, correct. And then while this is printing, I'll switch my views a little bit here. Here's some other stuff that we printed. There's one wine box. Here's another wine box that is just a plastic, but it's magnetic, so it can collapse and fold down. So if you gave this as a gift, it kind of collapses down to where you're able to store that easier. Then a couple other ADAs on a wood, some more aluminum, and things like that. And then I'm going to zoom in here so we can see that print. So you can see how close that gets to that material. You've got about a 1.2 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter gap difference between the material and the head, and that just gives you that optimal print that you're wanting. You can print in bidirectional, unidirectional, whichever way you feel is best for your print that you're working on. Then, doing the cylindrical, you're going to do the same thing. Do a test, see if you want to run bidirectional, if you want to run unidirectional. There is no right or wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of what process do you want to do. Is speed a factor? Speed's a factor. You want to do everything in bidirectional as long as you're getting the right output that you're needing.
You said this is a white base with color on top?
White base with color on top. So you can set that up. If this was, say, clear acrylic or a clear, anything clear, you can run this. It would print in reverse mode. So it would print the color first and then your white down on top of that to give you your opacity that you're wanting. That way you can do a second surface print. So there's many different ways that you can run this printer. If you were wanting to apply a gloss effect to this particular print, you could send a secondary print over that's just clear, and then you can adjust your lamp settings, and it would give you a gloss effect on top of this print as well. So
Like
there's many different tricks that you can
a
do
real
for,
varnish.
yeah, like a real varnish. It's like we were coming up on this bit. I did print this unidirectional just so I made sure that I had a good crisp image on that wooden box. It is wood, so it is going to kind of vary. There are going to be some variances across that media. Obviously where the top and bottoms are joined together, it's going to be tighter there. There's going to be a little bit of fluctuation in the middle there. So I wanted to slow this down, do a unidirectional print to make sure that I had the cleanest and crispest print that I could get.
And bidirectional would have taken half the time? Is that
Not
roughly?
necessarily half the time, but probably. I think when I printed this, the wine box that I showed you on the sample table, I did that in bidirectional. I believe that was about a minute and a half. And right now, this one's taken. It includes the time that it uses to move. So I mean, it's probably going to take about 3 minutes to do this in unidirectional. But you can fill up this whole bed with those boxes. I'm doing just one in the presentation, but you can fill this whole bed up with as many as you can fit on there, whether you're using a jig, if you had a custom jig made to fit a box this size, or you could butt them up next to each other and print as many as you wanted that would allow you to print on this bed. So, kind of doing a one-off isn't a true estimate of time.
Yeah.
You kind of want to fill up that whole bed, because one is going to take a lot longer than a whole bed. So if it tells me that this print took 4 minutes, I'm probably doing that whole bed in probably 45 minutes. So then I could fit, I believe another, what is that? Probably 5 back, 6 back, and doing 2 across, and then maybe even turn some sideways. So I could probably fit 14 or 15 on here. So I mean, you're able to get a decent amount up on this size bed.
And that would really maximize the throughput
Yes.
because you have the same turnaround time for the carriage,
Yeah. Oh,
whether it's
let me.
one or four.
Yes. Yeah. So let me zoom back out here, and then here's our finished product. You just got like a little note, like nice rows. You've got initials of the couple on our wedding day, the date that it happened. So, just a nice little gift to give somebody. Or even, if a wedding was wanting to give this to their wedding party, they've got this to kind of celebrate. They've got a nice bottle of wine or some champagne inside this box. They've got a nice little gift for their wedding party. And that's really, the quick basic overview of the the MP UV32.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't think of anything we missed. Um, I don't see any other questions. If anyone has any questions, you could throw them out there now. We're wide open and ready to answer. But, uh, otherwise, I think that that's a wrap. I'm going to get back to the final slide so that you have contact information. Should now be seeing the final slide, which is my contact information by email, as well as Rui, and we are both available for any kinds of questions or inquiries going forward. I don't see any further questions. Um, so I just want to thank you for taking the time and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.